Another important material attribute is transparency. The transparency of the material can be set to make objects ranging from flat planes of glass and thin glass materials like the beakers that we have in the scene to leaded crystal and colored solid glass objects. If you're continuing from the previous section, then you don't need to do anything special. However, if you're starting from a new scene, go ahead and open the file Chapter 4 Interior Max 05, then open the Slate Material Editor to continue with this lesson. Let's go ahead and make some glass material for the glass beakers and the other glass objects that we have on the table on the right-hand side of our laboratory. In the Slate Material Editor, we have our active work area available. We can click the middle mouse button and pan the work area down so we give ourselves some room to add another material into the workspace. This is another unique aspect of the Slate Material Editor. Each workspace can contain multiple complete materials. You're not limited to just having a single material in the workspace. Scroll down in the Material Map Navigator until we get to the Arch and Design material in the Mental Ray rollout. Let's go ahead and click and drag that out onto an open area in the workspace. Double-click on the material title bar to expose the material attributes, and we can double-click on the material preview to give us a slightly larger preview. Don't worry if you run into a situation where the material node is overlapping or on top of another material node. To arrange all of the nodes in our current workspace neatly, we can go up to the Slate Material Editor's toolbar and click the Layout All vertical button. This will rearrange our workspace and clean it up a little bit. Yours may look slightly different than mine depending on where everything is positioned when you click the Layout button. Let's go ahead and turn on the Show Background in Preview button in the toolbar. In the material attributes for this Arch and Design material, enter the name glass_green and press Enter on the keyboard. And this time, instead of setting the parameters manually, we're going to choose a template from the drop-down list. You always want to be a little bit careful when you use the templates because you're not always 100% sure what parameters they're changing. It's important to learn the Arch and Design material fairly well before you start relying on using templates for your material. However, they do come in very handy in a pinch. Let's assign the material to our glass objects in the scene first. On the main toolbar, click the down arrow next to the name selection set. From the drop-down list, choose Glassware. This will select all of the glassware objects in the scene. In the Material Editor, make sure you select our glass material, then click the Assign Material to Selection button from the main toolbar. Now these objects all have the new glass material that we've just created associated with them. In the template rollout, you'll see that we have a drop-down list called Select a Template. Click on the down arrow to open the list and scroll down until you find the template option for Glass Thin Geometry. The geometry in this scene for our glass is only a single polygon thick, which is why we're using the thin geometry option for the glass template, meaning it had both a front face and a back face, creating thickness. For example, a sphere would be an object that you would use the solid geometry option for. Click on Glass Thin Geometry to select the template. This sets the color value, this sets the reflection, it sets the refraction, the transparency, it adjusts the shininess value, it also adjusts the reflectivity value. If we look, the shininess and reflectivity values are all the way up to 1. And if we look at our sample preview window, we can see in fact that it looks like glass. One advantage of having the background pattern turned on for our material preview is that it allows us to see transparency much better. Now, because we'd used the template, it doesn't mean that we can't make some adjustments to the material. The template is also a way of setting a starting point for your material. Let's say you want to change this glass to be slightly green. Rather than using a blue color in the refraction color, we want to select the color swatch, in the color selector dialog, adjust the hue and slide it over to the left until we get to a green section of the hue slider. The value may be somewhere around 0.3. Then we'll drag the saturation slider to the right, give us a more saturated green color. then click OK. This has the effect of adding a green color into our glass. You'll notice that we have a slightly more green look to the material than we had before. Go ahead and render the Camera 1 view by clicking on the Render button from the main toolbar. What we've done by using that template has changed a variety of parameters in our material. It has changed the color value, it has changed the shininess, and we've gone in and made some modifications to the transparency color of the material so that it behaves fairly realistically. Notice that it takes a bit longer to render the glass. Once the rendering is complete, you'll see that we have our green glass objects rendered in the scene. The transparency is another example of a shader that, in this case, was handled by the template that we chose. Press Ctrl S to save the file, and go ahead and close all of the windows and dialogues that are open. Go ahead and press Ctrl S one more time. Let me tell you, you can't press Ctrl S enough times while you're working. Let's increment this file again. From the Application menu, click Save As. Click the Increment button to save this file as a new file.